All right, hello everybody and welcome. Thanks for joining us. As you can see on the screen, we're going to go ahead and get started promptly at noon. So hold on just a little bit here and we'll get started right at noon. Thanks. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Timothy Scott, or TJ Scott, and I am an estate planning attorney. And I'm also very happy to welcome you here today to our workshop. This workshop is what you need to know before investing in real estate. And again, thank you for joining us. I am really excited today to be joined by experts from different fields, from the fields of real estate, from the fields of financing, insurance, and investing. And each person is going to get a chance to share with you their knowledge and share with you more about themselves. But before we get there, I'd just like to introduce everybody just so that you have a picture of what we're going to be talking about today. So John Sly is pictured in the top center there, and John is a realtor with Edina Realty. He's going to be talking about why investing in real estate is such a good move for so many different people. Robin Ludke is pictured in the top left. Robin is a mortgage consultant with Edina Realty Mortgage, and Robin is going to be sharing with us her knowledge about financing a real estate purchase and the different things that can affect that financing, whether for an investment property or for your home. Tony Torres is pictured down in the lower right. Tony is an insurance agent with Edina Realty Insurance. And Tony's going to share with us today the ins and outs of protecting the things that you have, hedging the risks really of that we all live with day to day through insurance, and what that looks like, and the things that can affect that, and how you can get the best insurance rates possible. Brennan McCarthy is in the top right, and Brennan is the Director of Financial Planning at Boulevard Wealth Management. Brennan is also a real estate investor himself. So he's going to tell us about that. He's going to tell us about the process that he uses to evaluate new investment opportunities and how real estate investment can and should fit in with your other investments. Finally, I'm going to be talking about a couple of the biggest questions as an estate planning attorney and as an attorney who is familiar with working with real estate investors. I'll be talking about some of the biggest questions that I get and my answers to those questions. So now I'm going to kick it over to John Sly. Again, John is a realtor from Edina Realty, and take it away, John.
All right, thank you, TJ, for that wonderful introduction. My name is John Sly, and I'm a real estate agent with Edina Realty, and I'm going to be talking to you today about building your foundation of wealth through real estate investing one house at a time. Now, why is this topic so important? Well, homeowners, it's interesting fact is that homeowners are 43 times more wealthy than renters. And according to a Federal Reserve study that was done in 2019, the last time they did this study, they found that homeowners' net worth was $255,000, and the median net worth of a renter was $6,000. So does that mean that everybody should own their own home? Based on that information, I'd say definitely yes. If you want to create long-term wealth, real estate should be part of your plan going forward. Now, if you already own your own home, congratulations, you're well on your way. What I'm going to demonstrate to you is an easy way to get into real estate investing, one house at a time, by buying houses for your own use, living in the property, and then deciding whether or not you want to convert that to a rental property. So let's see here. So I'm going to talk to you about actual case study, a story about Bill and Mary, who, when they were in their 20s, they were a lot like other 20-somethings at that time, and that they would move from city to city, renting apartments, trying to figure out where they wanted to settle down. And they finally settled in the Twin Cities. And one day, Bill and Mary were sitting on their sofa in yet another rental apartment. And Bill turned to Mary and he said, "Mary, have you ever met a wealthy renter?" And Mary thought for a moment and she said, "You know what, Bill, I never have." And it was at that moment they decided to pursue home ownership. So I think instinctively they knew buying real estate was the way to go. Maybe their parents told them or their grandparents. But what I know they didn't have at the time was this next chart that I'm going to show you. And what it shows is that the reason renting is not good financially is because median rents are increasing at a much faster pace than is household income. And what that means is, as a renter, more and more of your income is going toward putting a roof over your head, and you have nothing to show in return. Now contrast that to home ownership, and one of the features of home ownership is the asset you're investing in is at least appreciating. In the Twin Cities, long-term appreciation of residential real estate is between 4 and 5%. And more recently, it's been about 4%, but that's taking into account the severe downturn during the Great Recession. The other thing that's happening when you invest in real estate is, as your asset is appreciating, you're probably going to get a loan, either fixed rate 15 or a 30-year loan. And so you're locking in the principal and interest payment, which is the bulk of your monthly payment. The only variable would be your insurance and your real estate taxes. So by locking the principal and interest payments in, you are at least creating a hedge against inflation. So when you combine the two, appreciation and paying down your principal, you're building equity over time, which is the difference between what you owe on the property and what the property is worth. Now let's get back to Bill and Mary. After that fateful day on the sofa, they did decide to buy a little starter house in Bloomington in 1988 that they paid $80,000 for. And as their family grew, they went to a move-up house in the southwest suburbs, lived there for many years. Then they downsized to a 2-bedroom townhouse, realized that was too small. And this was when all the kids were gone, but then they had grandkids coming over. So then they right-sized to a 3-bedroom townhouse. And during the years that they had home ownership, they were able to create total equity of over $400,000. And this is just buying real estate for their own use, living in the property, not even considering renting the properties out. Now, an easy way and something to think about when you're investing in real estate, an easy way to get into rental properties would be buy for your own use, live in the property, and then think about if you want to hold back some of your real estate holdings and convert them to rentals. So it's fun to think about what would have happened to Bill and Mary's situation financially had they become landlords of a couple of their real estate holdings. So let's take a look at the starter house and the move-up house to see where their finances would be today. And this is what I call Bill and Mary's alternative wealth building plan of buy, hold, and rent, as opposed to selling properties when you're moving on. The little Bloomington house could be rented out in today's market for between $1,600 to $1,700. When you multiply that out times 12 months and then take into account 5% vacancy, which is a good rule of thumb, and subtract out operating expenses, which include property taxes, management, maintenance, and insurance, Bill and Mary would have been able to have net operating income on that little house of $12,000 a year, which is 3 times what they initially invested in the property in the form of a down payment. So they'd be doing pretty well. Now the move-up house in the southwest suburbs, a nice 4-bedroom house, you could rent out for $3,500 a month. And when you subtract vacancy allowance and all your expenses, they would have been able to enjoy a net operating income of $25,000. So had Bill and Mary kept those 2 houses, they would now have a rental property portfolio of over $800,000 that they would own free and clear, paid for in part by their renters, and they would be generating $37,000 a year in income, which is a pretty nice income, especially if you're trying to augment your retirement savings. So think about when you're investing in real estate, if you already own property, think about an easy way to convert to a rental property rather than buying specifically for investment purposes, because if you do that, you'd have to put at least 20% down that the lender would require if it's an investment property. The easy way is just to buy for your own use. You can put as little as 3% down, live in the property for at least 1 or 2 years, and then you can decide if you want to move, should we convert this to a rental or sell it and use those proceeds in other ways. Here's a picture of the happy couple, Bill and Mary, walking the beach. They're smiling because years ago, they took the plunge into homeownership and were able to enjoy good equity over the years. They didn't become landlords, but they did take the equity and invest in more real estate. And then they took the excess and sent it off to their financial planner, like Brennan, who's on the call here, and let them invest in other ways other than into real estate. There are a couple books I'd like to recommend if you're interested in learning more. One is Building Wealth One House at a Time by John Schwab, and the other is The Automatic Millionaire Homeowner by David Bach. Both excellent books, and we'll get you more details on what to think about when you're getting into rental properties. And finally, I would like to offer everybody on this call the chance to have a free real estate consultation. And if you already own a property or you're a first-time home buyer, let's talk about your goals, what the market looks like and what it takes to get offers accepted, etc. Just shoot me a text or email and we'll get you on the schedule. And now it's with great pleasure that I am going to introduce to you the next speaker. She's been in the mortgage industry for many years, has experience that will help you fund your real estate goals and your dreams. She's somebody I recommend to all my clients. Please welcome Robin Lukey of Edina Realty Mortgage. Robin.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much. It took me a minute now. And then just want to confirm that you see my screens. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you so very much, John. And what I want to talk to you about is how to financially prepare yourself to purchase your next home. So whether that is your primary home, so maybe going to be your first home, or maybe you're looking, you already own a home and you want to buy an investment property. So that's what I want to talk to you about. Most important to understand prior to getting ready to purchase is credit and how your credit affects your purchase. Credit really seems to be something that's very difficult to understand, and there's not a lot of information out there, and people aren't quite sure how those credit scores are determined. So I want to go over that with you. Your credit score, which is your FICO score, lenders use that, and it has a great impact on what type of a loan you'll be approved for, if you even get approved. If there's any special programs for you, what your interest rate would be. And if you're putting less than 20% down on a purchase, the cost of, you will need mortgage insurance, and your credit score affects that mortgage insurance and how costly or not it might be. So how are credit scores determined? There are different factors. So 35% of your credit score is determined by your payment history. Which you would think that would make a big difference, right? So are you making your payments on time? Every creditor, you get a bill, there's a due date. Are you making that payment by the due date? And you actually get a grace period, provided you make that payment within the 30 days that it's due, you're fine. But if you go past that 30 days, that creditor will turn it in, your late payment, to the credit bureaus as a 30-day late payment. And that's really going to take a ding on your credit. So super important to get those payments in on time. And do you have a lot of outstanding debt? Do you just have minimal balances on credit cards, or do you have several that are up to their max, and you have a couple of car loans and a bunch of student loans. So how much outstanding debt do you have? Does play a 30% impact on your credit score. How long have you been responsibly using your credit? Now, there's not a lot you can do if you're a young person, you only had credit for a few years. It's only 15% of your credit score. Or if you've had someone who has been, using credit for 20, 30 years, certainly as long as it's been responsible, that's going to help the credit scores a little bit more. And what types of credit do you use? There's terms of like good credit and bad credit. So a mortgage is considered a good credit. You're making those payments on time, and the more you make the payments, you're owning a little bit more of that home, and that's considered a good credit. Installment loan for anything, even like a car loan, is a good credit. Revolving debt falls under the items that aren't good credit. So what are you using it for? Revolving typically means that you're short on money and you're borrowing to just, purchase some items. And I know a lot of people want to earn points, earn miles. So they, put everything on a credit card and maybe pay it off monthly. But what you really want to be careful of is that you don't go over 30% of your available credit limit. So if you have $1,000 limit, don't go over, $330 in a month. Even if you pay it off in full, you don't know when that creditor turns it into the credit bureaus that what your balance is. So always keep your balance at 30% or below of your limit. And then the last 10% of your credit, or what determines your credit score, I should say, is how recently have you opened accounts. If you are looking at purchasing a home, in the next 6 or 9 months, don't go opening, credit cards because you want to save 10% off of your purchase at a retail store, because it may end up costing you more on your mortgage than that 10% you're going to save on whatever that purchase is that day. Information that is on your credit report. So when companies pull your credit, this is what they're going to see. Your identifying information like name, address, social security number, date of birth, and your employment information, as well, of course, as what type of credit do you have out there, and who else has pulled your credit over the last couple of years. And important other items is going to be anything that's a public record, like a bankruptcy, foreclosure, lien, or judgments, and those will stay on there for a number of years. Now, I do want to point out at the bottom there, where you could see that the address there of the annualcreditreport.com. You are entitled to one free credit report every year from the 3 main credit bureaus. It won't include your score, so you may have to pay extra to get that score, but it is a good idea once a year, take a look at your credit report, see what's being reported on there, see if there's something on there that isn't accurate. Is someone reporting a late fee that isn't accurate? You're going to have to go back and prove that that's incorrect and have them corrected on your credit report. Or did somebody, use your information and take out some sort of a loan? So great idea to take a look at that prior to taking out any, wanting to purchase a home, take out an important item like a new mortgage. I want to touch base on the different types of mortgages that are out there. These 5 that I have listed are the major types of loans. There are some, like we are brokers, so we do have some other banks that can do different types of loans, but these are the majority of what you're going to find out there. Conventional mortgage for purchasing a home. Here in the Twin Cities, $548,250. That is the max loan limit for a conventional mortgage. You can purchase as high as you want of a purchase price. You just have to make up the difference in the down payment so that your loan amount is that amount or less. For a primary residence, minimum down would be 3%. If you're looking at purchasing a home as an investment property to rent out, that would require the 20% down payment with a conventional loan. FHA is a government insured loan. Loan limit's a little bit lower here in the Twin Cities. Down payment is 3.5%, and FHA can only be used for a primary residence. VA loan is another government insured loan, 100% financing, no down payment required. It's a great loan product that's available for our active duty, veteran, or reservist individuals. So it's a great program. Good size loan amount here in the Twin Cities, also a primary residence. FHA and VA loans are a little bit more liberal when it comes to credit scores if they're on the lower end than a conventional loan is. So those are great options for a little bit lower scores. USDA loan, if someone's looking at purchasing a home in a rural area, so not in the Twin Cities, outside of the Twin Cities, there are some income limits available, but there's no down payment. And it is also, it's a great program for primary residents. If an individual is looking at purchasing a much larger size home, then they may fall into the category of a jumbo loan. So that would be anything over that $548,250 and is also for a primary residence. Down payment sometimes can be an obstacle when purchasing a home. There are some programs out there to assist with that. So down payment assistance programs primarily used for primary residences often will be have a limit to first-time home buyers, but there are some programs out there if people are not a first-time home buyer. Again, maximum income limits. So the programs are there for individuals who need it, maybe limit the area that you can purchase. But the idea of these programs is you're going to borrow the money for your down payment and your closing costs. Those are secured loans on your home. So they are a second mortgage on the home. Some have a monthly payback option and others you don't have to pay off the loan until you sell the home or it is no longer your primary residence. Some other options for a down payment or coming up with money for closing costs. The first two there, let's say you already own a home, you are looking at purchasing an investment property, but you don't quite have that 20% down payment. Maybe you're sitting with some equity in your current home. You can either refinance that current mortgage, take out a larger first mortgage and use that equity towards your down payment on your investment property. Or if you want to leave that first mortgage alone, you can just take out an equity loan. And so if you've got some equity there, you can borrow against that on your primary residence and use those funds for your purchase. The next two options really could be used for whether you're buying primary residence or an investment property. But if you own something outright, like a boat or a car, you can take out a loan against that and then use those funds towards your purchase. And many employers' 401k programs do have the option of either taking a loan from their 401k or taking the money out if they're using it for a home purchase. So definitely worth taking a look at those options also. It's a lot of information when it comes to purchasing a home. So I do ask that you reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to talk with you, give you a free loan consultation, free loan approval. With the loan approval, I can give you an idea of how soon you can purchase. Maybe we can go over the credit report, see what's on there that we might need to have you work on so that you are ready to purchase when the time is right. But please feel free to give me a call or shoot me a text. That is my cell number. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you about what options are available for you. And I would like to introduce Tony Torres with Edina Realty Insurance. He's a broker with Edina Realty Insurance, and he's going to be able to help you to protect these investments that you're making.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, I appreciate your time. Good afternoon, everyone. As Robin said, my name is Tony Torres, and I'm a mortgage broker, or not mortgage broker, excuse me, insurance broker with Edina Realty Insurance. And being a broker, we have access to a number of different carriers. So when we work with you to do a quote, we're able to quote with multiple carriers and save you money. So what affects your insurance rates? Robin has done a great job talking about credit score. Credit score also affects your insurance rates. Higher your credit score, the lower your rates are going to be. The location, different zip codes are going to have different pricing. And that's why it's nice to have a broker that works with multiple carriers, because the sweet spot for one carrier may not be the same for another carrier. So that's why we're looking at multiple carriers. Coverages, obviously, depending on the coverages and also the deductibles, that can affect your insurance rates. Occupancy, whether you live in the home, whether you're renting, or if it's a second home, the rates will be slightly different. If you've had claims particularly like water claims or robbery claims, so that can affect your rate. Normally, a weather claim is not going to affect your rate or not much. You can have a couple weather claims and that should keep your rates should stay the same. Let's go on to the next page here. Some of the basic coverages on all home insurance: your dwelling, the actual structure, loss of use or loss of rent. If you can't live in the property or rent the property, there's coverage for that to make you whole. Other structures, particularly like detached garages or fences, are going to have their own line item on your coverages. Medical payments to others to avoid a lawsuit. There's typically anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 in coverage. That way, if someone does hurt themselves on your property, like a landscaper or any contractor or guest, they can get that taken care of without having to go into a lawsuit situation. Personal property, depending on whether you're living in the property or renting it, those numbers are going to be different. And then obviously your deductibles. There's a number of different coverages and lines to consider depending on whether you're going to be a landlord or whether you're living in the property yourself, whether it's a condo. Let's focus on a couple things here, and that is flood insurance. If you live close to a creek, like let's say Minnehaha Creek or a river, typically it's important to consider flood insurance, and some properties are, it's mandated that they have flood insurance. Otherwise, the other thing that's important is an umbrella. As your assets accumulate, the more you have, the higher the possibility is that if you do get into a lawsuit, you could obviously have more to lose. So the more your assets grow as you invest and bring on more properties, it's very good to consider an umbrella. Not every policy is the same. You can have extended coverages on your dwelling. We typically go to 150% of your estimated replacement cost. Some carriers will only do your actual estimated replacement cost or maybe a 20% increase. We like to do either 50% or 100%. It's always an option. Making sure that you have replacement costs like on your roof or your personal contents is important because the other option is to have actual cash value, which is the depreciated coverage. Roof and siding matching, it's important in case you do have damage to your roof or siding to have that matching coverage. Make sure that you get a new roof. Even the undamaged portions are covered. Loss assessment is important for those that are owning a townhouse because loss assessment is what that HOA is going to assess you if there's a loss like a wind and hail loss. Even though they're covering that part of the property, they're still going to assess their deductible to you. So making sure that you have coverage for that is important. And then let's just briefly talk about buried lines. This is important for older homes in particular because those sewage lines can break down or roots can grow through them. And then that particular coverage would cover the excavation. If you have an underwriter concern or an inspection go through, these are things that typically they're going to be looking for, and it's anything that could cause a liability or a loss. They're wanting to make sure to eliminate losses like pools without fences around them or broken mirrors, broken windows, anything that's broken that could be a potential liability. The breeds of dogs, like pit bulls, can be an issue. Overhanging trees. Let's just move on to the last one here. Unsecured doors that open like into a future deck. Many of these newer homes have a second, they're a two-story building, so that deck's going to come off the second story. And if that door isn't secured, an underwriter would ask you to secure that door after an inspection. All right, a couple items that you can do to clean up or to lower your rates. Number one, clean up your credit issues, enroll in automatic payments out of a checking account, EFT, bundle your policies, your auto, your home, your toys, shop for rates every couple years, take a look. Pay in full whenever you can. That's going to get you the best pricing. And make sure that you're talking to an insurance agent. Now, if you'd like to review or get a quote, feel free to reach out to me. And just to give you an example, just recently I quoted a person who had kind of held off on getting a quote because they were loyal to their insurance agent. They did approach me and say, you know what, I'm ready to take a look. I was able to save them $8,000 on their auto insurance. And that's a large number. It's unusual to have it be that much savings, but there was 5 drivers in this particular family, and an $8,000 savings per year is what came out of just taking a look. So there's no obligation. Feel free to give me a call. And with that, I'd like to introduce your next speaker, Brennan McCarthy. He's a certified financial planner and director of financial planning with Boulevard Wealth Management. He's working as an advisor to young professional clients and also providing advice to the firm's real estate investor clients.
Get myself off mute. Wow. You'd think after a year of these meetings, you'd know how to do that by now, but I guess not. So thank you for your introduction, Tony. As Tony mentioned, my name is Brennan McCarthy. I'm a certified financial planner with Boulevard Wealth Management here in Eden Prairie. My role with the firm is serving as the primary financial advisor to our young professional clients. So most of my clients are in their 20s and 30s, some in their 40s, but really kind of focusing on making the correct financial decisions in the first half of their career to either ease the load in the second half of their career or hit some of those financial goals that we're targeting. So aside from being the primary advisor to young professionals, my scope of excellence with the firm is as an advice giver advising our real estate clients. And so I'm spending a lot of time analyzing properties. If they're looking for, we're looking at long-term strategies. So if the long-term strategy is to eventually exit the business, we're kind of analyzing different scenarios, like, do we just let this be managed by a company? Do we sell them outright, or do different things like that? So over the past 4 years, I've found success with adding rental real estate to my overall financial plan. And I've used it as a complement to my overall financial plan. I haven't gone completely into real estate. I think as a financial advisor, I see some of the pitfalls, and being too heavily focused into one area can cause problems from time to time. So want to use that as a complement more so than the sole focus. And so I've built my business, my real estate business, up to about 8 different rental units. But I want to share my process with you guys. And like I said, I own 8 different rental units. I'm not a complete expert, but what I've done so far has worked well for me. And so hopefully I can share some of that with you guys. So wanted to talk about, like, the primary reason why real estate investing is attractive to me, at least, especially at a young age, is because I'm able to spend my time and my effort into physically adding value to these two properties. So it's a little bit different than my 401k or my Roth IRA, right? Where it sits there, it's actively managed by portfolio managers, but really I'm not actually physically able to do anything. And so I can actually go up, I can put a wall up, I can put a bedroom in, or renovate a bathroom, you know, that kind of stuff, and actually add value without spending money to add value. So that's a big thing. You can see me on the ladder on the right side there, painting the exterior. And so this is our first duplex over in Northeast Minneapolis. Feel like most of you guys, if you've been around there, you feel like you've probably seen that property because there's so many of them that look just like that. But the focus for us was increasing cash flow. So previously we were getting $895 a month on that upper unit. After renovating it, cleaning up the exterior, doing some landscaping, we got that up to immediately $1,300 a month, but now 4 years later, we're up to $1,600. So again, those are the type of value add things that I have focused on. So before starting to look at properties, if you haven't ever started, it's really important that you understand your rental market. If you don't know what people are willing to pay for rent in that area, you can't really know what this property should be worth or what you should be willing to pay for it. And so working backwards from knowing your rental market and what we'll talk about next in analyzing the deal is very important, because what happens is you're competing with people who like the flower boxes out front, or they like the color of the paint in the bedrooms. And we want to stay away from those subjective decisions when we're looking at this as an investment. So I want to run through a quick case study. I took two properties that were on the market a few months back, potential investments, and they're both in Northeast Minneapolis, and they both appeared on the MLS. So let's take a look at them. Again, like I said, these are both in Northeast Minneapolis, although the one on the left is a single family home and the one on the right is a duplex. So the rental markets are similar, but the structure of the building clearly is a little bit different. And so we'll look at the numbers only and which is a better investment. So let's look at the first property first. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It is renovated, so expected in that market, we can get about $2,000 a month for it. Using Zillow or Craigslist or things like that is going to be the best way to have a good gauge of what the rental market asks for. Aside from that, some assumptions that I make always are vacancy at 5%, so immediately skim 5% off of your total income when you're running projections. One of those units is eventually going to become vacant for at least 1 month in a random period over the years, as well as maintenance. I think 10% of income is a good, nice rule of thumb at this type of property level. As properties get bigger and bigger, we can reduce that maintenance allowance, but 10% is a good place to start, and it's conservative. Aside from that, property taxes can easily be found on Zillow or the county website. And then insurance, I took a bit of a stab in the dark at that, but with some experience. And I would recommend, if you're more curious about an actual number, talking to Tony or a insurance broker that can tell you that a little bit better. So aside from that, at least in the city of Minneapolis, generally the tenants are responsible for their gas and their electric bills. And so as a landlord, you're going to be responsible for the water bills and the trash bills. So let's take a look at this as an investment. Here's my template. I'm happy to share you guys with everybody who wants it, my template, where you can plug these numbers in. Don't go cross-eyed staring at this, because I understand it's a lot to look at. But just trust me that I pulled the numbers from the previous slide and plugged them in here. But really what I want you guys to focus on is that bottom row right there. So the cash flow, the thick green, it's $152 per month of positive cash flow. And really what's important, at least to me as an investor, is positive cash flow. I want to get the most cushion or the most bang for my buck. So again, focusing on this bottom right corner here, that 2.56% cash on cash return. Now, I would caution you to not think of cash on cash return the same as what does my investment in my 401k return, because that's just, think of that more as a dividend rate. On top of the dividend rate, you're getting the property value increasing every year, and you're also getting the mortgage paid down on top of a lot of the tax benefits through depreciation and some other things. So there's a multifaceted way to get returns from real estate, but I pulled out this one as being the most important to me as an investor for these types of property. So let's take a look at the second one. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and it's a duplex. Obviously, the purchase price is about $50,000 higher, so we'd expect to get more for it. And clearly, we are on the rent side at $1,500 and $1,300. The vacancy and the maintenance allowances are the exact same, and then property taxes, again, pulled from Zillow, and then insurance and maintenance are going to be a bit higher. Property is worth a little bit more, as well as more people are living in it. So let's take a look at this analysis here. Same thing, exact same format as previously, but I want you to look again at this bottom before tax cash flow number. So we're looking at $406.27 per month of positive cash flow. Again, that's a lot higher than the previous one, but it's more expensive as well. So looking at that as a percentage rate, cash on cash at 5.8%. So if you guys had to look at both, which one's the better investment? And that's a bad question because I know none of you guys can answer me, but clearly it's the one on the right. And so the duplex is the better investment. It's not always necessarily the case, but I like using this template as kind of a first glance at properties to just test them. And it's a good way to compare one property to others without actually seeing it. So there are other important considerations that you need to focus on when you're buying a property, obviously. But in terms of taking a step back and avoiding that subjective look at properties and looking at it from more of a numbers-based format has helped me a lot in selection of properties. So really, aside from that, I just wanted to say, you guys, I'm a nerd and I love analyzing properties like this. So I've been doing this for 4 years. And even if I'm not looking to buy a property, I'm constantly on MLS and plugging these into my spreadsheets and taking a look. But I did cover a lot of information over a really short period of time. So if you do have questions for me, I'm more than happy. Again, like I said, I'm a nerd, so I'm happy to sit down with you and look at whatever property you're looking at. We can go through it together and plug some numbers in. But aside from that, I will put my template into the chat box and feel free to steal it yourself. If you didn't catch it, again, you can shoot me an email or give me a call and book time in my calendar and we can go through stuff like that together. So thanks for listening. Finally, I think I want to introduce TJ Scott. And so TJ is an estate planning attorney who helps families draft their legal documents. So unfortunately, as a financial advisor, I have seen when people don't actually do this work, and it's a huge pain if you're not able to. So people think it's a hassle to do up front, but I think you'd much rather do it up front than have the pain of not having them done after passing. So without further ado, let's hear from TJ.
Thank you so much, Brennan. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It can be a mess for families when they don't have things set in order for them by the person who passed away. And that's what I help with. So as Brennan said, my name is Timothy Scott, or TJ Scott, and I'm an estate planning attorney and the owner of the law office of Timothy J. Scott. And today I really want to talk about a couple of questions that I often get from real estate investors. And those questions are, how do I protect my real estate investment during my lifetime? And secondly, how do I make sure that my investment gets to the people I want it to go to, the people that I love, with the least hassle possible after I'm gone? And so taking that first question first, how can I protect my investment during my life? And some people tend to think of this as like, what entity do I need to form? Do I need to have an LLC? Do I need to have a corporation? Or are there some sort of strange asset protection trust that I can put this property into in Alaska or Nevada or something like that? And because we're talking about real estate investing for the first time, or maybe an early real estate investor, I would just caution you away from entity formation and asset protection trust type planning, because oftentimes that's going to make it really difficult to finance your purchase. And Robin can attest to this, that trying to protect your asset from your lender is going to make your lender less likely to want to give you money, as you can imagine. But there is a great way to protect that first real estate investment that you make, and that's making sure that you are completely and properly insured. And so you're really going to want to talk to Tony or have him run a quote for you and make sure that you are covered in all the ways that he discussed during his presentation today. So the second question that I get is, who is going to figure this out when I'm gone? And if you are a real estate investor already, or if you know a real estate investor, you probably know that this is all too true. Real estate investors tend to have a lot of balls in the air. They're juggling a lot of things at the same time, and things can be kind of a mess. But the great news is you can get everything organized. You can get everything all together to make sure that everything is taken care of for the people that you love. And if you don't, the state has a plan for you. And unfortunately, it's probably a plan that you're not going to like, because the plan looks like this. The plan looks like a judge sitting in a courtroom deciding what is best for the people that you love and the assets that you had when you passed away. And so the state has a plan for you on a whole number of different things. If you become incapacitated and you don't have a healthcare agent or you don't have a financial agent, there are a couple of state processes, court processes really, that you would need to go to, or that the people that you love would need to go through in order to get the ability to act as your healthcare agent or as your financial agent. If you pass away and you don't have things in order, if you have minor children and you don't have a guardian, then it's going to have to go to probate, and a judge is going to have to decide who is best positioned to take care of your kids. And if Uncle Larry looks the best on paper, then Uncle Larry might just end up with your kids, even though you know that's not the place that your kids would flourish. If the assets are in your personal name, again, probate, and that's something that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But you can see here, whatever the issue is, the state has a plan for you, but you can change all of this. You don't have to follow the state's plan on any of this, and especially on who's going to receive your property, and Minnesota Department of Unclaimed Property possibly stepping up and collecting assets that didn't make it to the people that you love. Those are especially things that I don't think anybody would want to have happen. So the state's estate plan for you is a court process called probate. And there are a few things about probate that make it especially painful. First, probate is extremely slow. In Minnesota, probate takes at least 6 to 12 months to get through, but more often it's taking 12 to 18 months. It's just a really slow court process, and there are certain waiting periods that you have to fall into, where your creditors have the ability to come forward and make different claims against your estate. And it's a really important thing to highlight, is that what probate really is it's a lawsuit against yourself for the benefit of your creditors with your own money, that you have to file at the end of your life if you have property in your personal name. The other thing about probate is that it's very expensive. Probate costs somewhere between 3 to 6% of your gross estate, and that those fees are made up of a lot of different things. Attorney's fees are really high on that list, but there's also executors' fees, appraisers' fees. Creditors obviously are going to take their part, filing fees, bond premiums, all kinds of different things that go into it. And so here's an opportunity to calculate maybe about what your probate estate would be, or the cost of your probate would be. And so you can get 5% really easily by, if you take a look here at this person's estate, if you move the comma over one place to the left and then divide that number in half, that will give you 5% of the number that you're looking at. So here you can see, running that same operation, you can get $30,000. And you can see this is a decent estate, but you can see how quickly you can get pretty extensive probate fees. If you add in a rental property, you can see you're just increasing the cost of the probate. And that's not even including, if you need to sell that rental property, the different fees for selling that property as well. Also, if you have retirement accounts or life insurance, and the beneficiary on that retirement account or life insurance policy is a minor, then that also needs to go through probate, because the minor can't receive directly. The minor can't receive themselves. So there needs to be somebody in place to receive for that minor, and that's just going to increase that cost of probate. But there is a foolproof way to avoid probate, and that's by creating something called a living trust or a revocable trust, and then making sure that you fully fund that living trust during your lifetime. And so what does fully funding a living trust look like? Well, it looks like retitling investment accounts, going down to the bank and signing new signature cards so that that bank account is in the name of the trust, executing deeds to real property to put those pieces, those parcels of real property into the trust, transferring stock and bond certificates, assigning personal property to the trust, and also changing life insurance and retirement account beneficiary designations. And there are some special rules, especially around retirement account beneficiary designations. But that's something that we can talk about if you're interested. And I'd like to make this really easy for you. I'd like to make your next steps really easy so that you know exactly how to get this looked at and how to get it taken care of. And what I want to do, I want to offer either a 15-minute phone call with me absolutely free. And I'm going to go ahead and post my scheduling link in the chat right now so you can find that, click on it, and see when I'm available. But I'd love to take 15 minutes with you and just talk over the phone and get clear on if probate is something that is a concern for you, if the intestacy statutes, which determine who receives your estate after you're gone, if that's a concern for you. I hope that you'll reach out to me and we can have that 15 minutes for free. Another thing that I'd like to give you for free is a full 2-hour family wealth planning session, which is the session where we will actually go through everything that you have and everyone that you love. And we'll talk about everything and we'll get really clear on exactly what the state's plan is for you, or if you already have a plan in place, what that plan is going to do for you. And that's just something that's really important to do. So again, next steps, either go ahead and schedule that free family wealth planning session. Again, that's that 2-hour session with me where we'll talk about everything that you have and everyone that you love, or just schedule a 15-minute phone call with me and we can have a chat about that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that you can see all of us again. And if anybody has any questions, I haven't seen any posted yet, but you can either ask in the question and answer box, or you can ask in the chat, and we'll be happy to field those questions.
Awesome. It looks like we covered everything.
We are good.
Don't you all feel like geniuses?
All right. So Tony, this looks like a question for you. For an owner-occupied multifamily property, what kind of insurance do you recommend? That's a great question.
Okay, if it's owner occupied, it's going to be homeowners insurance, and you can have up to 4 units in a owner occupied rental property, a multiple use unit, and that's perfectly fine. So you can have endorsements to make sure you have proper coverage for the rental units and then have it as an owner occupied. Really smart way to go from an insurance standpoint.
And Tony, it looks like another question came in for you as well. I've considered homeowners, landlord, and umbrella insurance. Do I need all 3?
Well, homeowners is specifically for a homeowner. Landlord is for a landlord. So you can have a property that you live in, that's your homeowners, and then you can be an investor and have landlord insurance. Those are called fire dwelling coverages. And then, yes, I would recommend an umbrella. The more fire dwelling coverages you have or investment homes you have, the more you have to lose. So I would recommend an umbrella on top of those homeowners. You can have a base of, let's say, $500,000 coverage and liability within those regular policies, your homeowner and your landlord, and then have an umbrella for $1 million or $2 million on top of that.
That's great. Thanks, Tony. I have another question here. This one looks like it's directed at Robin. And the question is, are there things about your mortgage company that can help provide a stronger offer in this competitive market? That's a great question.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you're referring to, so many buyers are making an offer on the same home. And so a listing agent has to look at 10 different offers and figure out which one is the best. We actually do have a program that when buyers do electronically link their assets to their loan application, we can get a quick loan commitment, all done electronically, so that when the offer is presented to the sellers, they not only have a pre-approval letter, they actually have a letter stating that the loan has been through underwriting and we're committed to doing the loan. So it's a much stronger letter when making an offer that help them stand out against the other offers? Great question.
That's great. John, do you have anything to add to that? I know that you have successfully had offers accepted, and I know it's a really difficult market right now. So
Yes. So there are ways to make the offer stronger. Of course, working with Robin is helpful because as a listing agent, you look at, is it a 5% down or a 10% down? All those different considerations. But in terms of writing the offer, there's some people that will waive the inspection. I don't necessarily recommend that, but if you're up against 10 offers, you have to think about ways to make the offer stronger. I typically, if we write in a inspection contingency, we'll say if there are any issues, $2,000 or below, for example, the buyer is willing to take those on. So we try to let the seller know that we're limiting their liability and we're not going to renegotiate, for minor items. And that just makes them feel better about the offer. But yeah, there are different ways like that, and asking or providing a written statement, for example, on the loan side, which is much stronger than, the alternative box number one. It's getting maybe in the weeds a little bit, but there are definitely ways to write a strong offer in this market so that you can win houses. It's pretty difficult right now, but you can do it.
Great. Thanks, John. Well, thank you everybody for attending. We really appreciate having you here. If you have any questions for us, I hope that you'll reach out directly. Otherwise, I will send an email here with all of our contact information. So if you miss somebody's information in the chat box, just know our information will be coming soon so that you can follow up with us directly. All right. Well, 3 minutes before 1, so I gave you some time back for your day, and I hope that you have a great one. Take care.